I'll start with an apology, and you'll see why. But for a moment, let's take a look at the screen. If you like what you see, won't you spend time with me? So I know in some corner of this room, in some mind here, random thoughts are going off. And I apologize, because we are still going to stick to MarTech, and this talk will be about MarTech. So coming back to the statement, if you like what you see, won't you spend time with me? What we like is actually a complex interplay of things which we often don't realize. But if you look at it, it's about your personality, which has gone through a journey, which has experienced things, which has developed its own likes, and it's about the moment that you're in, right? So if I take the simplest example, I like ice cream a lot, right? But stick me in a very cold place, and I don't like ice cream so much anymore, right? I prefer hot chocolate more at that point in time, which given my base personality, it may not have been the thing I liked most. So this is a complex interplay that brings out and amplifies and optimizes things that I like or not like. Coming to, this is a number. It would be really presumptuous of me to just put this number up there and ask you guys, what do you think this is? So I'll give you a little bit of a hint on this number. Does anybody know what I'm talking about here? Okay. Sorry? Yes, so I don't know if anybody else said it, but I saw this gentleman here say it. It's Felix Baumgartner's jump from the fringes of outer space to Earth, free fall jump, whatever, space jump, which was viewed online simultaneously by 8 million people at one point in time. So that was the record at that point in time for simultaneous online event viewership. Here's another number. Can anybody tell me what this number is? Okay, so this was closer to home, so I wasn't giving any hints, but yes, that's right. It's the world record on the IPL that Hotstar created. It was in the CSK versus SRH match, where we had 8.3 million people simultaneously viewing the match at one point in time. And of course, we call it the concurrency also. The concurrency stays round about this number, but this is the peak that you witnessed in that match. And then here's another number. Can anybody tell me this? The IPL people? Okay. We broke the 8.3 record on the finals of the IPL, with CSK was batting, with a 10.3 million viewership at one point in time simultaneous. So more than 1 crore people on the platform at one point in time. And of course, throughout the duration of the match, it was somewhere around about this number. Why am I sharing these numbers with you? Because what we are going to talk about today is something that actually is a very critical part of getting numbers like that, building an audience online, building viewership online like that, which is real-time affinity-based marketing amplified by the moment that you're in. So essentially, I'm going to break it down, but in terms of how you take it to the consumer, there's a element of technology, there's an element of real-time information that comes in, there's an element of your own personality and your likes and your dislikes, and you have to find a way. We have constructed a way where we put all of this together in order to get impact as well as efficiency, goals which frequently contradict with each other when it comes to digital marketing. And if you do put them together, it leads to the implication of cost. So how do you manage these three things together to drive impact and efficiency, right? So I'll straight away dive into an example. This is an example on the news category that we have on the platform, Gujarat and Himachal Pradesh elections. So if you see, on the day of the counting, this is a master creative that I'm showing you. It gets redeployed in notifications, mastheads, displays, banners, everything. On the day of the counting, we start with very static banners, which are, will the 22-year-old reign end today, et cetera, et cetera. But as the results start coming in, we start feeding it into our creative. So And this is 8:30 a.m., it becomes Congress is leading in 88 constituencies, right? That goes for an hour. The next is when the counting is almost coming to a close at 11 a.m., it says BGB seems to be heading for a win. So these are creatives and communication that is changing on the fly. Another example of Himachal Pradesh elections, very, very similar to the Gujarat election. Essentially, what we've done is we've taken the statistical part of the video feed. We've built a custom feed where we've put the statistics through it. And the custom feed is actually powering master creatives that we've built. It's inputting into them, and it's repurposing creatives for different platforms. So you get a notification, you have mastheads on Hotstar, you have emails that go out from Hotstar, all of which carry this dynamic real-time information. And then, of course, we use bumpers off platform and displays off platform to get everybody who has affinity with that moment into the platform. So what this eventually did for us is the standard display CTR for us for ABP News, which was Himachal Pradesh, was 3.8x, and ABP Asmita, which is the Gujarat language news, was 4x compared to our standard display CTRs. But so far, I've basically played with a very basic level of personalization, with a very basic level of moment marketing, with a very basic level of real-time data. The most complex element to all of this is human behavior. A person's likes, dislikes, and his personality. What insights and what is true for him. So let's try and see if we can fit that into the equation somewhere. So I'm going to take an example from the recent IPL that we had. And I'm going to stay away from buzzwords like ML and AI. Instead, I'm going to try and coin a buzzword of my own, which is MAMA, Moment Affinity Marketing. So if it comes out of this room, you know where it came from. I don't see many takers, so I'm not hopeful for my MAMA versus ML and AI, but I'll persist. So the insight here is for IPL, especially the target audience we are chasing, right? There's a section of the audience, and it's very huge, that simply keeps track of match proceedings. They do love the game, but it is enough for them to just know what is going on, because they feel that devoting themselves to a match is actually taking away from neglecting something in their life. So there's a constant source of tension between their need to balance life and their love for cricket. And this is where we thought we could play a role. So basically, the job for us was turn followership to viewership, essentially, by giving them a way to enter the match when it's at its most exciting. But not just when it's most exciting, because exciting things mean different things to different people. And this is a really important point, and I'm going to come back to it a little later. But basically, we tailor what's most exciting for a person to make it even more relevant and compelling than just a general level of excitement. And that's done by what I was talking about before, amplifying real-time moments in a live cricket match through moment affinity marketing. So how did we go about it? So we basically identified moments where there were spikes in concurrency on the platform. We correlated them to the TVR spikes to come up with what we call the parallel spike moments, where sentiment, TVR, concurrency, everything is spiking. And we looked at past data and mined through all of this data to create those moments. Essentially, we were looking for two things, right? Moments that are impact and moments that are control. And I'll explain what impact and control really means. So if you look at, on one axis I have control and one axis I have impact. So what is controllable? Controllable is when the toss is going to happen, when the match is going to start, when there's a break in the innings, etc. What is uncontrollable? Uncontrollable is a fall of a wicket, a batsman hitting a six, a match closely poised, or a sudden stump mic conversation that happens, right? So the very nature of uncontrollable events makes them a little more exciting. So you see, what we are trying to prioritize here is a good mix between events we can control and events we can't control in order to drive our impact towards the higher quadrants. So that was the basis of how we curate. Now, based on this, we went back and made some rules. So team-based rules, these are more controllable, okay? So who will win the toss today? This is a creative that goes out when the toss is about to happen. Match begins now. We know it's a set time, right? So these are all controllable. The interesting chase, MI 195 to win, that's somewhere in the middle. So it's not essentially controllable because it happens at different points in time. And last 5 overs remaining, again, because of time delays, it might be controllable or not as controllable, but in the realm of controllability. And then we have player-based rules, right? So this, we don't know when that's going to happen. So Dhoni on strike, Dhoni in the nervous 90s, consecutive boundaries hit by MS Dhoni, or Bravo picking 2 wickets in an over. So these were all player-based. And we mapped each key player in the IPL, players who we knew were crowd favorites, drove engagement, etc. Out of the 150 or 200 odd players in the IPL, 150 odd players in the IPL, we mapped all of the key players to these moments. And of course, the variable parts of this creative are the 2 wickets or the number of runs or whatever. The images are mapped, things around their batting or bowling are mapped, but the exact statistics are the creative elements that flow in to this. So what happens is that we send this out in displays, in our notifications, in mastheads, and of course, we saw the gradual improvements in the watch time, right? So, but this is what was interesting was, and why this is really powerful is because, you know, you would expect everybody to come on the platform when Virat Kohli hits a 6, right? So that's a very high impact moment. So you're sending that moment out. But how we really worked this out was that out of 100 people that this was served to, maybe 80 got engaged with the match and 20 didn't. Now these 20, there's a reason they were not engaging with the match, because they had affinity with the moment as such, but not such a high affinity that they would engage immediately. So we then cycled through our creatives to them. And the creative that came out, and this is a specific example that I'm talking about, there's many like this. The creative that really seemed to be working for those 20 was MS Dhoni coming out to bat. So essentially, here is a consumer truth for you. These are people who are hero worshippers. In the sport of cricket, they do not follow cricket ball to ball, but they follow their heroes. And that's the insight and what we've done is we've essentially taken a consumer truth that hero worshippers exist in a sport where they might not be 100% looking at ball-to-ball action, but more following their heroes on the sport. We've taken that consumer truth and we've married it to the insight which had their conflict resolution between love for the game and love for what's going on in their life. Very powerful. And that's how we saw people come to the platform. Essentially, what we did is at the end of it, we'd reached more than 110 million people with a 200% improvement on our CPCs versus our goals. And I don't even have a count of this, but more than 10,000 dynamic ad variations that our proprietary system was churning out by the second in an effort to optimize. So these optimizations existed in every bucket. And the only intention was that there is a creative that talks to everyone. There is an insight that talks to everyone. How do we find that insight? And how do we get them to come and engage with the game on the platform? Hence, if you like what you see, why don't you spend more time with me? Thank you.